People joining in. Did you say something, Charlie?
No, I just said okay.
Okay, great. So we'll just go ahead and get started with the meeting, 6 steps to a better business. And this webinar is about how business coaching can help your business. So I appreciate you joining me here today. Now, I expect that most people that are joining the meeting own their own business, which is probably why you're wondering how you could create a better business. We are in one of the most challenging times that I can remember in business, and I've been in running my own companies for over 20 years now, and I've never seen anything like this before. I don't think any of us have. In normal times, running a business can be one of the loneliest things that you can do. I think Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, said something like, running your own company is the only way to work 80 hours a week and have no one tell you what to do. Whereas if you work for someone else 40 hours a week, they're telling you what to do. But, you know, go figure. When we're entrepreneurs, we like to run our own show. So when you're running your own company, it's often lonely because you can't ask people for advice that you know. You might ask your spouse or friends or relatives, but they may not always have the answers. They may not have the experience of how to make some of the best decisions in your company. And so there are those times where running a company is very rewarding and you're thinking, okay, I've made the right decision. This is a great business. And then there's those times where you think, oh my gosh, why am I running this company? This is very difficult. I feel that when you have the support that you need in running your company, you will be the most successful. And so we're going to talk today about support and what that looks like. So for all of you that are joining now, thank you for coming in. I do appreciate you being here today on the call. And if you'd like, you can keep your microphone muted. And on a couple of occasions, I might ask for some people to jump in and offer information. And you're welcome to do that at that point. Okay. I think everyone that was in the waiting room is now in the meeting. So let's see here. There we go. Hi, everyone. Now I can see you. Okay, wonderful. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started on 6 steps to a better business. So for your time investment today, I'm going to talk about the following things. One, working through a challenging time. As I said a minute ago, it's one of which that I've never seen before in my career and as a business owner. And I think that there's a lot of fear right now. And we're going to talk a lot about how things that you can do now to improve your business as we wait for things to improve in the business climate. So I am going to give you some great ideas today for your companies. And I also have a giveaway item at the end, which is really fantastic and would help any of you in your companies, even though I know you're all different. Okay. So just a quick note about Action Coach International. There are 1,000 coaching offices in 70 countries worldwide. It's the world's #1 business coaching firm. It is owned privately by Brad Sugars, who is an entrepreneur and author. Brad Sugars owns many businesses. He said he's been in every type of business imaginable, from owning car dealerships to dry cleaners to restaurants. And he also owns Action Coach. And he's a very smart Australian guy and very enthusiastic. Our vision with Action Coach is to create world abundance through business re-education. And you might ask yourself, business re-education, what does that mean? Well, it means that a lot of us are trained in some measure of doing business at some point in our life. And maybe that's through a college degree. Maybe it's through the School of Hard Knocks. But for a lot of us, we don't necessarily learn all the correct principles of business early on. And Action Coach intends to help with that education. And we coach over 15,000 businesses a week. out of a bunch of countries. So very popular organization. Well, some of you know Coach Ted Schmidt, and he is our practice owner, and he has been running this firm for 10 years. He had a series of rent-to-own businesses in the Seattle area that he sold about 10 years ago successfully, and had built them up and really achieved the dream that most of us have as entrepreneurs in building up a company and then being able to sell it. And since then, he's helped hundreds of companies with their businesses in increasing profitability, developing teams, working on working less, which some of us right now might be working less, but now we're going, how are we going to make a living working less? So generally speaking, if you've set up your business properly, you can weather this storm, and we'll talk about that here today. And then I'm Jennifer Ferrero, and I've been a business owner myself for about 20 years. And I've also helped hundreds of companies with their marketing, public relations, and communications. And that's generally been my area of focus. So I have to tell you, I understand the value of having a business coach. And in fact, Ted Schmidt was my business coach on several occasions through a couple of different companies that I owned and managed. And the value for me is I needed help in decision making sometimes. That's not to say that I'm not decisive. It's just that when there's money involved and there's teams involved, you have to give a lot of consideration to how you're going to make a decision. Also, saying to yourself, you know what, if I just work harder in my business, it's going to get better. That's not always true. Does anyone agree with that? Working harder doesn't necessarily make you more profitable. It doesn't necessarily bring you more clients, right? So it's a matter of understanding what to work on, and really those facets of business that are the most important. And we'll talk about that today as well. Okay. Action Coach defines a successful business as one that is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. And so that brings up two goals. One is profitability, and two is working fewer hours, right? And how do you design a business that works without you? You generally need to consider how to develop systems in your business that will make you more organized. And when you have developed these systems, as we'll talk through those today, then you're going to be much more successful. Ted told me just today, actually, he said during this COVID-19 virus, he said those businesses that I've worked with through the years that have developed systems, they will weather this storm just fine. They will come out of it stronger because they understand the principles of how to better run their business. But those that haven't, he said, those are the ones I'm most concerned about. One important thing to note is if you're going to be profitable as a company, there is a critical skill set that you need, and that is to be good at sales and marketing, okay? Now, a lot of people right now during the virus and the work at home order that we have now here in Washington State are probably feeling like, gosh, I'm just gonna hold off on sales and marketing and I'm not going to reach out to anybody during this time. Or downplay it because who can I reach? No one's at home, or no one's at work and they're not answering. In fact, the best thing that you can do right now is to continue your sales and marketing. And tomorrow I'm teaching a webinar on marketing during this coronavirus and COVID-19 and how to keep that going. So I'd love it if you want to join me. Okay, now we're going to talk about 6 steps to massive results. So I'm going to go through these one at a time and give it a high-level overview. What is mastery in business? Mastery is about creating a stable business. In business with mastery, you aren't putting out fires every day. You're less reactionary. Niche. And some people say niche, but I'll say niche. That's the way I pronounce it. Niche is more about sales and marketing. It's about creating something unique, useful, and something that's needed in the marketplace. So You will be really looked at as a pushy salesperson if you have something of value to offer in the marketplace. That means that you've dialed in on your niche market, okay? So your job, when you have something of value to offer, which we'll talk about how to do that here in a minute, is to educate people on what you're going to do. I know Charlie, who's on the call today, he educates people all the time on financial investments. That's what he does for a living. And it's he does that through a newsletter format, and I think it's fantastic. Okay, the next area is leverage, okay? Leverage is about leveraging your time and money and developing systems to keep the business running. Team is the next layer of 6 steps, and that is your structure for growth. The team, once they're trained and developed, you can count on them to start running the business for you. And when they're running the business for you, and you get a general manager in place at some point, you can start to develop synergy. And synergy is a well-oiled machine. That means you can step away and take a vacation and not be there, and it will go just fine. Results is the next area. And results is where you can decide, you know what, I'm going to stay in my business, but I'm not going to work as much in my business, but I'd like to earn profit from the business. Or you can at that time decide, I'm going to sell my business. So this is where you get to make a decision about the company, okay? These 6 steps will lead to massive results for your company. So let's talk a little bit more about mastery. So mastery is a commercial enterprise, not profitable yet, but we're going to get there through these other techniques. Okay, there are 4 areas of mastery. The first one is destination mastery. Destination mastery is about where are you going as a company. I talk to people all the time who started a company 20 years ago, and they've done pretty well for themselves. They've generated income, but they have no idea what they want out of the company long term. I've talked to many people who have no succession plan in place. They've not decided, is this company going to be built up and sold? Will I give it to my children? What am I doing with this company? So one of the main techniques used by Action Coach is to define the date that your business will be done, the day you're going to be finished running that company. Knowing this will be a big part of your success, okay? I talked to a man about a week ago, and I said, and he was, early 70s in age, and I said, what do you plan to do with the company? He had he's a mechanic. He owns he has a car repair business. He said, well, I'm going to have my son take over the business. And I said, is your son already working in the business? And he said, no. My son lives in Oregon. He's not working in the business. And I said, does he know the business? And he said, no, he doesn't know the business. And I said, when do you plan to bring him into the business? And he said, my son will take over the business when I die. And I said, okay, that could be a challenge for your customers who count on you. I said, how much of your business is recurring business? And he said, probably more than 50% of my business is recurring business. And I said, so your customers know you and they count on your advice? And he said, yes. And I said, it's probably time to bring your son in now before he's in mourning over your death and too upset to even think about running the business. So destination, you have to know where you're going with the company and what you plan to do long term. So that's really the first thing that you should define when you start a business is what is the purpose of this company and when will this company be finished for me? Money is the next area, money mastery. You have to know your numbers. You have to know also what's important to measure. And money mastery is probably one of the biggest weaknesses that I hear about in business. Some of the most successful business owners that I've talked to have started out their careers as accountants. And then they get a really good idea for a business and they go run their company, but they understand money, okay? They know how to manage their books. And if you don't know how to manage your books, get a good CPA or a bookkeeper that will help you with that, that you can trust. And then beyond that, learn what they're measuring and what they're looking at, so they don't take advantage of you. Money mastery, very important. The next area of mastery in your business is time. How many of you, just by show of hands, work really hard in your company and by the end of the week you think, I didn't really get very much done this week? Anyone? And you kind of think, gosh, I could be doing better. I could be more successful. I should have achieved more this week. Well, usually when that's happening, you don't have control over your time and what you're supposed to be doing in running that company. It's a matter of having a daily calendar and also setting priorities for your company, okay? And the last area of mastery is delivery mastery. Delivery is making sure that your product or service is delivered on time, every time, and within budget. When you master delivery, then you can have the peace of mind that you can go back to your customers and ask them for business again. When you have not mastered delivery, then it's very hard to go back to people and ask for recurring business, right? We were working with a company this week. We were talking about doing some advertising, and they could not figure out how to deliver something to us. It was very frustrating. And so we ended up bowing out of working with them because they were all over the place with their communication and they were not listening to us. That is a problem of delivery mastery. Okay, let's talk a little bit about niche. Niche is about developing predictable cash flow, okay? So niche is a commercial profitable enterprise, and it's not working without us just yet because we have a lot of work to do when we're developing our niche. Niche is all about marketing. And it's about making sure you're not competing on price, okay? You want to compete on value, not on price. If you compete on price, what happens is someone can always go out and find a cheaper price. By show of hands, does everyone agree with that? Yeah. If you're competing on price, people will find a cheaper price, right? And then they're going to not come and shop with you anymore. You want to set yourself apart in the marketplace so that you're competing on value and you're offering something that people need and want, okay? Profit comes from repeat business. So that's really important that you are generating profit routinely. Now, determining your niche in the marketplace is not always easy. And so who here, and you can unmute yourself if you would like to share, who knows of a local business, and Tom, you can even say one down in San Diego, but who knows, or Santa Monica is where you are, who knows of a local business that's providing something great and isn't competing on price? Can anyone cite something? Anyone?
Coffee shops.
Coffee shops?
That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah. Starbucks, yeah.
Yeah, Starbucks charges a lot for their coffee, I think, right? So what's their niche then?
Their niche is service or ambiance.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. You know, interestingly, I don't love their coffee. I think it's too expensive, number one. But I've had a lot of meetings in a Starbucks, and I've purchased the coffee because I'm there and I need to have my meeting, and it's usually a good place to have a meeting. So that's a good example. Thank you. Charlie, do you have one?
A local business. I mean, I know there are, I just did not have anything come to mind.
Okay. I'll tell you one that's really unique that came up just this week with this COVID-19, and that's Dry Fly Distillery here in Spokane. And Dry Fly is, I mean, they make whiskey and alcohol, basically, and they've come up with this hand sanitizer that they're now marketing. I think they might be giving it away because that's probably the right thing for them to do right now. But they are, so that one's not quite an example of not competing on price, but they have developed something of value that people need in this marketplace.
Yeah, they have.
Well, that's something that is interesting to consider. Okay, moving along. All right, so how do you create a niche in the marketplace? It means that you are developing a unique selling proposition and a guarantee. A unique selling proposition, what is that? How do you define that? It's something that sets you apart from your competitors. The unique selling proposition with this Action Coach practice, this particular practice that Ted Schmidt owns, is that we are part of the Action Coach International brand. That means that we have all of the content that they provide to us. They've done a lot of the work and the research. They've prepared materials. We have all of this stuff available to us all the time. Other coaches in the region may not have the resources that we have available to us. The other thing that Action Coach International does is it offers a guarantee. You can get your money back if you're not successful in your coaching. Now, of course, that comes with a caveat, is that you have to do the work in order to be successful. But those two items there, the unique selling proposition and the guarantee, really help set us apart in the marketplace, okay? The other thing that we focus on here is re-educating business owners, which again, providing the education. So not just saying we're going to coach you, you can come talk to us, you can ask questions, but we're helping business owners to become smarter and more savvy about running their companies. And a lot of these things we do for free. And we offer programs where you can come and learn, which I think is really great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how do you know when you're being successful in your company. You have to test and measure everything, okay? Now today in our world, it's easier than ever to test and measure. How many of you have Google Analytics on your website? I know we do. Kendall and I just went through and did an analysis of our website traffic and where people were coming from. If you advertise online with LinkedIn or Facebook, you can test and measure. You can take a look at how a campaign is working, okay? The other thing about testing and measuring is in order to know how successful you are in running any kind of campaign is taking a look at, for example, how many sales calls are you making a week? How many of those people that did you talk to are converting into customers? I think you have to think a little bit as far as testing and measuring about sports. In sports, they keep stats on every player, right? I mean, that's communicated, it's known. Why are stats measured? Well, it's simple. It's so that the team can continue to improve. And maybe it's a little bit about the players making more money. I don't know, but measuring sports stats is really important. In business, it's even more important to measure. So have you ever heard people say most marketing campaigns fail, or most advertising campaigns fail, or I can't tell if my advertising is successful. There's no way for us to measure that. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is, and that you should be measuring everything. I know, again, we just were working with Action Coach. We were working with a firm on executing a new advertising campaign. Yes, right during the middle of this COVID virus, we are doing it. And we are going to be taking a look at measurement. We're looking at how many people are we driving into the business by doing this campaign. So if you think, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 on an ad, you're essentially buying new customers by spending that money, right? You want to know that the $1,000 equated to something. So how many customers did it yield? And then you can figure out what you're paying per customer to obtain those customers. So that's a good point of measure. But measuring everything that you're doing is really important. So going back to Charlie Carr, our financial advisor that's on the call today. Charlie, I bet you have measurement in your email marketing tool that you use, right? Can you tell how many people have read your emails?
Yes, I can tell how many have opened and how many have actually clicked through.
Good. So that's important. It's important to know how many click-throughs you have, because then you know if they're looking for further information from you. If they're not clicking through, then you have a problem with the way that you're presenting information, right? Okay. So, Action Coach 5 ways of growing a business. So most business owners, and this might include some of you here today, know how many customers they have, what their revenue is, and how much profit they make, okay? I will tell you that the first 5 or 6 years that I owned a company, I co-owned it with another partner, I didn't really know these numbers. I knew how many customers we had. I knew how many projects we were working on at any given time. I knew what my salary was, but I didn't necessarily know what our profit looked like. I didn't really know what our budget was. In that case, I was trusting a business partner to keep track of this information for me. I said, oh, I'm a salesperson. I don't need to know that stuff. Well, that's a bad place to be, folks. You really want to understand your numbers, okay? Now, these numbers, as far as your customers, your revenue, and your profit, those are numbers. They are really results of something more, something greater. So let's take a look at some numbers here today. When you are a salesperson, and everyone who owns a business is a salesperson, would you all agree with that? Yeah, you own a business, you are a salesperson all the time, every day, okay? You are out there to generate leads, and some people call them prospects. We also have another term in Action Culture called suspects, which is kind of a fun term. So we have suspects, prospects, and then we have leads as well. But you're wanting to generate leads. You're then wanting to take those leads and convert them into customers, right? You have a conversion rate for that, because not everyone you talk to, not every lead will convert to a customer, okay? So you might have 4,000 leads. You might convert 25% of those people and end up with 1,000 customers, okay? Now, per customer, you want to start to track how many transactions. So let's say each customer equates to 2 transactions. They purchase 2 times, okay? Each time they purchase, they spend $100. You're going to have revenue of $200,000 from that, okay? Your profit margin is 25%, and your profit then is $50,000, okay? Now, this seems like a pretty high number of leads, especially in my world, in the type of work we do. In some companies, 4,000 leads might make sense. But if you take even a smaller number, you could still do the math on this to figure out what your profit is. Now, these numbers are all very important to running a company because these are numbers that you can measure, okay? At the end of the call today, I am actually going to provide you with a handout on 5 ways to increase your business profits. And this will help you increase leads, conversions, transactions, your average dollar sale, and profit margins. This is a really great sheet, and there's literally hundreds of ideas on this sheet of how to do this. And I pull it up all the time and look at it, especially if I'm sort of stuck and I'm like, wow, I'm just not generating a lot of leads this week for the business. What can I do differently? And I take a look at this and go, oh, here's an idea, and I try it. Now, if you start measuring your numbers and you then increase just 10% the number of people you're talking to, your leads, then you can start to see a real difference in your numbers and how much profit you're going to make at the end of the day, right? There's a big difference in profit of 50,000 versus 80,525, right? I know I would like to see profit more like the 80,000, and I'm sure you would as well. when you have your systems dialed in and you're measuring your sales and marketing, and you're measuring these items, your leads and conversion rate and customers and transactions and so on, you will start to see a dramatic increase in profit, okay? Let's talk a little bit about leverage. And what is leverage? Leverage really is about developing efficiencies in your business, okay? And what are efficiencies but a system, okay? How many of you have a system in your life, something that you rely on to make sure things get done? Anyone? No systems? I'll tell you a system I have, and that is I clean my house every Saturday morning right away. First thing in the morning, I get up, I clean the house, I do the whole thing top to bottom. That is a system that keeps me on track for the rest of the week. Honestly, it takes a long time. It's about 4 hours of doing that work. And my house isn't that big, but I guess I'm pretty meticulous about things. But a system ultimately saves me time, energy, and money for the rest of the week because I only have to clean once on Saturday, and then the rest of the week I'm good to go, which I think is great. I'm sure that some of you have systems of your own that you are thinking about. You're welcome to share those. And by the way, I think some of you are using the chat room, which I wasn't using. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Erica. Good. All right. I'll try to look at that here a little more frequently. All right. So what are some systems you can develop in your business to make you more successful? I think this is something that we all want to know, right? Okay, hold on here. My screen has frozen, so just 1 second. Okay, hold on a second, please. I'm so sorry.
Who's Bradley Sugars?
Huh?
Who's Bradley Sugars, or how is Bradley Sugars related to Action Coach?
Yes, well, Brad Sugars is the founder of Action Coach. He's the one, I started out in the beginning, and it might have been before you got on, Tom. He owns a variety of businesses around the world, and he's developed systems and written about 20 books on business. Fantastic guy, really smart, and he lets us know, how to run a business better. So that's what Action Coach is founded on, is Bradley Sugars and his models.
He's still around?
Oh yeah, he's still around, yeah. Gosh, oh, there we go. My computer froze up for a minute, but now it's working. All right, so some of the systems. One is develop a vision statement for your company. How many, by show of hands, have a vision statement for your company? Okay. Mission statement is another one. A culture statement, especially if you're looking to hire team and develop the company. In fact, interestingly, some of you might know, but I do freelance writing on the side. And I was interviewing a company yesterday, an aerospace manufacturing company, and they spent most of the call talking about their culture and how important it is to them. One big part of their culture is that they have regular barbecues with all the staff. And the guy I was speaking with, he said, well, I'm really good at barbecuing and smoking, and I'm great at that. And I said, well, what do your two business partners do? And he's like, they drink beer. That's what they're really good at. And I was like, okay, well, that works. That's fair. So culture is very important for a growing business and for team, so that they have something to rely on in the company. The next area of systematizing is SMART goals. And with Action Coach, some of you are very experienced with the way that we set SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, sorry, the R is escaping me, realistic, and time-bound, okay? Those are SMART goals, and we all need to set those in our daily lives as well as in our business life. Because if you're setting a goal, but it doesn't have those elements, it's really hard to measure that and whether or not you succeeded in reaching it. An organizational chart is important in a company. Contracts and agreements. KPIs, and we do KPIs at Action Coach. We measure things like our social media impact. We measure how many prospects we have per week. We measure how many people we're converting to new clients. Kendall, what are some of the other measurements? I can't think of all of them right now. You have to take your mute off.
Yeah, sorry. Let's see. So like you said, social media, we do how many suspects and prospects. We also measure how many meetings each person is going to, how many networking events each person is going to. Yes, and how many people they've talked to at those events too. So I think that's about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kendall. Kendall keeps track of our KPIs. That's another thing that's a system, is that someone in the organization should be tracking those and then being able to provide a report every week on where those are. Now, if you work alone, like Mr. Incredible on The Incredibles, you can still keep KPIs by yourself and go through and review it on your own each week. Another thing is really important regarding a system is that how-to systems, how to do something. That's a process or procedure type system. And everyone really should be paying attention to those how-to systems, especially if you're going to hire and grow the business, okay? And then also management systems, how do you manage things? Another system I think that's really important is communication. And especially crisis communications. How do you communicate in a crisis? How do you communicate when things have gone sideways, like right now? There are so many public relations agents right now that are flush with work with so much communication around this virus and how to communicate about that. So communication systems are another one that are important, okay? Let's talk about team a little bit. Now, some of you might be hiring, and some of you may not be at that point yet, or perhaps you've had employees in the past. I have had I've had several companies and I've had employees in the past. I remember one time my father said to me, I said, I'm hiring my first employee, I'm so excited. He says, yes, now your problems have just begun. And it's true. It's when you have hired employees, then it's really important that all of these systems are now in place. If they are not, and you're starting to hire, it's very hard for people to come in and work for you. One of the reasons why is that you don't have any recourse when things go sideways, which they will. It's inevitable, folks, even if you hire the best person in the world, something is going to go sideways at some point. You have to have that employee manual in place. You have to have your org chart. You need to communicate your goals as a company so they understand what they're working toward. You need to understand, again, your communication and your management and how you're going to deal with issues. So those are things that a lot of companies right now during this virus, during this slowdown, if they're starting to hire and they want to grow the company, those are things to work on right now to get them in place, okay? All right, so on this graphic right here, you'll see owner, team, customers, and business. And in most companies, the owner, and I can attest to this, I've done this before, the owner is trying to run all three of these things themselves. But it really shouldn't be that way. Technically, the owner should support the team by giving direction, giving leadership, paying the bills, staying profitable, paying wages, giving encouragement, building systems, and etc. That's what the owner's role is in a company, okay? The team supports the customer with great sales skills, great service, quality, and consistency, okay? Customers then support the business by coming back more often, spending more on each visit, and telling their friends about you. So if you take all of those facets together, you're going to see a more profitable company and fewer hours worked by the owner in general. Okay, let's talk a little bit here about synergy and results. When you are developing synergy and results in the business, when you've done all of the previous work that we've discussed today, then you start to see growth and freedom in the business, okay? again, you're starting to then play with the numbers and starting to multiply those numbers to make more profit and also to give yourself more freedom, okay? So the first step, let's just go ahead and review some of our steps here, is mastery in the business. So again, mastery of the business is eliminating the chaos in the business. The outcome is your business is more stable. You're not concerned about making payroll at the end of the month or paying your bills when you have these systems mastered. The second step is finding a niche and or multiple niches for your products and services. When you're working out of the niche role, you have predictable cash flow because you know your market at that point. And the business can start to generate cash, okay? The third step is leverage. And when you can start leveraging yourself out of the business, you can create more time for yourself. The fourth step is team, and the team produces a structure for growth. And you now have the ability to take long vacations and trust that things will get done. The team is managing the business for you. And at that point, a general manager can be brought in to run the business. I always thought when I was running my own little companies, I thought, how can I step out of the business for even one day? I can't do it. I have clients, they're calling, the phone's ringing, people are working here, they need direction, they need to know what I want them to do. But you see, I had the wrong mindset at that time because I was not developing systems as I should have to run the company. If I had, then I would know that my team would take the reins and run with it because they knew what they were supposed to do every day, okay? The other thing is when your company is profitable enough, you're generating enough revenue, then you can bring in a general manager. And that's something that a lot of companies, when they get to that point, they're pretty happy because someone that is running the day-to-day operation. And then that business owner can start to be more strategic. Okay. The fifth step is synergy. This is when everything is clicking in your business and you can begin strategizing on your next entrepreneurial activity. Like my friend Tom, who's on the call today. He's a true entrepreneur, always lots of ideas for running companies. And I think it's fantastic. The final step is investor, actually. And that's when the owner is reaping the rewards of the business and then investing in other businesses or taking time for personal growth. I know someone here that lives nearby. She has developed a very successful consulting company. She's in the aesthetics industry and she works with plastic surgeons. She started out as an accountant, a CPA in her life, so she knows her numbers, she knows the books. Then she came up with a great idea. And then she started to develop systems. Okay, so she basically went through all of these stages. I do not know if she worked with Action Coach, but her model was similar. And she now only works 2 days a week. She's got employees in a virtual format around the country. They go out and they do the work for her every day. She's extremely profitable. She just bought a nice big house nearby on Liberty Lake and is doing very well, and they've got it down. And so that is really a great model. Okay, so interestingly, Richard Branson, who a lot of you are probably familiar with, very successful businessman, he said if you can learn to run one business successfully, then there's no reason why you can't run any number of businesses at the same time. The principles are the same. And one of the things that we talk about here at Action Coach is the same business principles, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you have a company of 500 employees. It's really the same model for every company, okay? And Jim Rohn, who's someone that Coach Ted likes to talk, or likes reading about him quite a bit. I believe Jim has passed on, but he says, never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And so he's talking about investing in yourself and why that's so important, okay? And then this is Brad Sugars here. This is a little bit of an older picture of him. He's a little more gray at the temples now. But again, he's the founder of Action Coach. He says where you'll be in 5 years will depend on the books you read and the people you associate with and the actions that you take. And I've actually heard a lot of people this year talking about that, is this association and being near people that are positive and upbeat, people that have things going on. And also, some of the more successful people I've talked to recently are, they do lots of audio books. They're not necessarily holding a book in their hand, but they just listen to audiobooks continually to try to improve on their skills and what they know. So the last piece is taking some action in your life when you know you need help. Tiger Woods said, no matter how tough you think you are, you can't do this on your own. And I'm sure he has had a team of people behind him over the years supporting him. And I think really every athlete has. Every successful business owner gets some help and support so that they can be more successful. All right, so now it's time to get into action. And I'm going to, as I said, the people who have come on the call today, I'm going to send you this 5 ways to increase your business. And this includes tips for lead generation, conversion, transactions, and how to increase your dollar value per customer. So I'm hoping that that will be a helpful tool for all of you. And then tomorrow I'm doing a class on marketing continuity during COVID-19. This is a really fun class. This is part of something I do with Action Club, which is one of our 7-week classes that we put on. And we're going to be really developing a marketing plan during this session. And then I'm offering a free 30-minute consultation to anyone who joins this class afterward. Well, so sometime in the next 2 weeks. And we'll talk about your marketing plan and what you have going on and make sure that you're continuing to stay in front of people even during a really challenging time for all of us. So I want to thank you all for attending today and let you know that we do have availability for consultations with Coach Ted Schmidt. Some of you know Coach Ted already. And for those of you that don't, he's a great guy and he's very knowledgeable. And if you just want to talk with me, you can contact me and I think a lot of you have my contact information. So any questions before we get off the call?
Do you have a download of the slideshow?
Yeah, in fact, I'm recording this and I'll have Kendall put it up on our website.
Okay.
That, and you can listen to it again and look at the slides too.
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a question here, Jennifer. So
Yeah.
what would be a recommended, so you showed that one book by Brad Sugars early on, and now I can't remember the title of it. But
Oh, okay. Let me get that for you.
what would be a good book to start with as far as getting a deeper understanding?
Let me ask Ted that and get back to you, Charlie.
Okay.
I've read some of these, but not all of them, and I think he would be the best to advise on one. And I know that he has a recommended book right now that he thinks is fantastic. Kendall, what is the name of that book?
It's by Joko Willink. Let me just look real quick. I can find
Okay.
it.
So, but yeah, as I said, Brad Sugars has, gosh, I think it's close to 20 books now. And they're really, the thing about these books in the Instant Success series is they're really quick reads.
Yeah, okay.
They put some kind of parable in there. So you're reading about this pretend business and how they execute. It's great. Very well done. Do you have that, Kendall?
I'm sorry, it's taking just 1 second. I'm very
Okay.
close to grabbing it.
We can send it out to all of you as well, along with the 5 ways sheet after this. Any other questions?
What does KPI stand for?
Hold on, I know it.
Key
Second.
performance indicators.
Oh, thanks, Charlie.
What was the first word?
Indicators. Huh?
What was the first word?
Key performance
Key.
indicators.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like your house key or your car key.
All right.
Okay, for the book,
Thank you.
it's called The Dichotomy of Leadership by Joko Willink and one other person.
So it's, yeah, Ted, one thing I'll say about Ted, he's an avid reader. He's all the time reading, listening to audiobooks. He's constantly learning, and that's a great habit to get into. Okay, well, there's no more questions. We'll go ahead and end our call. I think we're a few minutes early, so I'll give you back 10 minutes of your day here. Thank you all so much for participating, and feel free, again, if you want to get into developing a marketing plan during this challenging time. I'm doing that class tomorrow at 11, and if you'd like the link to it, just let me know, and we can get you signed up.
Yeah, can you send me a link, please?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right, bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye, Kendall.